Hey, what's up guys? It's TechSumer talking to you here. And in today's video, I want to compare the iPhone 14 Pro Max against the iPhone 15 Pro Max. I want to tell you what's new, what are the biggest upgrades coming to this year's iPhone 15 Pro Max, the difference in price, because if you don't know, the iPhone 15 Pro Max is now cheaper in some countries, and of course, what should we expect next week when this phone comes and the reviews start coming. So, if you are interested in today's video, the comparison between Apple's latest flagship, the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and its predecessor. So, do not forget to drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for watching. Roll the intro. Yes, the iPhone 15 Pro Max just came out this Tuesday. And in today's video, I want to compare it against the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So, let's start by the design. The design of the iPhone 14 Pro Max is the same as the design as the iPhone 13 Pro Max and 12 Pro Max. So, it's the same squared off design with the sharp edges. This design was kept off for 3 years, like Apple usually does. Tradition tells us that Apple usually keeps the design for 3 years and then changes it up a bit. This year, they did a slight change, like the change between the design of the iPhone 15 Pro Max and the 14 Pro Max are very, very slight. Now, the iPhone 15 Pro Max features contoured edges. These edges are more comfortable to hold. They are, instead of being sharp, they are rounded off. So when you are holding it off on your hand, you will notice the difference that is way more comfortable. Maybe it's not as premium, I don't know for sure. I haven't held the iPhone 15 Pro Max yet, but what I can tell you is that the iPhone 15 Pro, the iPhone 15 Pro Max, the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus all feature this new design. So if you like it, maybe it's time of the year to upgrade. If you don't, you will have to wait 3 more years for a new, different design. But the iPhone 14 Pro Max's design, in my opinion, wasn't bad. I love the feeling of this premium holding material. Stainless steel was also used on those devices. For like 5 years or 6, Apple used stainless steel on their phones, on their premium high-end phones, the iPhone 10, the iPhone XS, the iPhone 11 Pro, the iPhone 12 Pro, the iPhone 13 Pro, and now the iPhone 14 Pro. So 7 different iPhones with stainless steel. Stainless steel is really cool, but it features lots and lots of fingerprints. And after a while, it kind of looks smudgy. If you use the case, well, you won't really care, because if you use the case, you won't see the titanium present on the iPhone 15 Pro Max and 15 Pro, nor the stainless steel present on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So if you like titanium, if you like stainless steel, those are easy to decide, because stainless steel is heavier, it's premium, it's glossy, while the titanium is brushed, lighter and more resistant. So this year's iPhone will be much lighter than the iPhone 14 Pro Max. The iPhone 15 Pro Max will be even lighter than the iPhone 11 Pro Max. So it will be the lightest iPhone Pro model ever. Yeah, ever. And finally, because I don't like the heft and the bulk of the iPhone 14 Pro Max. That phone is, in my opinion, too big and too heavy for a phone. I much prefer the iPhone Pro model, the normal model, weight and size, but that doesn't have that good of battery life and that big of a display. So now that the iPhone 15 Pro Max will be lighter and, if you don't know, a bit smaller than the iPhone 14 Pro Max, I'm super happy with these changes. Titanium brings with it lots of protection because it's way stronger than stainless steel, but it doesn't bring with it the downsides of stainless steel and actually stronger materials, which are heftiness and that feel of very heavy and voluminous phone. No, now titanium will feel light, like a feather, just like the Apple Watch Ultra feels on your hand. It's big, but when you pick it up, you feel, oh my god, it's light. It's almost like that aluminum feeling that you get for the first time. When Apple switched to aluminum on their iPhones from glass and actually stainless steel, you notice the difference. From the iPhone 4 to the iPhone 5, you could notice the difference. So yeah, I'm super happy to see this now happening. And yes, Apple with titanium on the iPhone 15 Pro Max might be one of the biggest changes ever to the iPhone lineup. I'm super excited to use the titanium phone for the first time. I love titanium, is one of my favorite materials, especially on the Apple Watch. And now that I have it on my iPhone 15 Pro Max whenever it comes, maybe this Tuesday, then I will be super happy with it. And of course, I want to review it and show it to you guys. While the iPhone 14 Pro Max features stainless steel and glass on the back. The iPhone 15 Pro Max features titanium and glass on the back. So in terms of design, they are not that much of a difference. The contour edges, titanium, that's it. As for the I/O, this is the first time in a long time that Apple actually changes something. The iPhone 15 Pro Max will feature USB-C, while the iPhone 14 Pro Max features Lightning. This is a big thing because Lightning on the past was one of the biggest handicaps of the iPhone Pro models. The Pro models could not transfer high-end footage like ProRes footage or ProRAW images that fast. So Apple now decided to change to USB-C. Kinda, because they were a bit forced by the EU. But that doesn't matter. Now they changed it to USB-C 3.0 speeds with USB-C. They could have done it with the Lightning cable. I don't understand why Apple did not change the speeds of the Lightning cable from USB-C 2.0 to 3.0. I mean, Apple things, you know. But now that Apple actually decided to change things up with USB-C, now we get much faster speeds. Now we can record ProRes footage at 4K 60 frames per second directly to an external drive because of the speeds of USB-C. We can now charge external accessories like AirPods, Apple Watches. You just plug a cable on your USB-C port on your iPhone, you plug another cable on the AirPods, which are also now USB-C, or your Apple Watch cable, because that's also USB-C. So yeah, USB-C is a big change on the iPhone, and the iPhone 14 Pro Max did not feature it, had the Lightning cable, while now the iPhone 15 Pro Max has USB-C. So on one side you have the Lightning cable, on the other side you have USB-C. This one is way more compatible, faster charging speeds, better just in general, because oh my god, how could you keep Lightning for so long? So many features that Apple can put on their iPhones now that it doesn't make any sense that Apple kept Lightning for so long. Then we also have the colors that are also different. The iPhone 14 Pro Max featured 4 colors: the space black, the silver color, the gold color, and that weird purple color. I don't remember the name, but it was purple. It was not fun. While the iPhone 15 Pro Max features 4 colors, 4 very simple colors. Because of titanium, Apple could not actually invent that much. So what they did was simple: black, white, blue titanium, and natural titanium color. So my favorite is actually the natural titanium color. I will get my iPhone 15 Pro Max on a natural titanium color. But other than that, the rest of the colors are pretty much the same. Maybe the space black on the iPhone 14 Pro Max was a bit darker, and so it was my favorite color of the iPhone 14 Pro Max lineup. While the space black or the black titanium color on the iPhone 15 Pro Max is not as black or as deep or matte. So it's not as good as the iPhone 14 Pro Max that I had. That black color was insane. That space black iPhone 14 Pro Max was one of my favorite iPhone colors ever, together with the forest green of the iPhone 11 Pro. But keep going, there are more differences on the iPhone 15 Pro Max and the iPhone 14 Pro Max. The display on these two iPhones are also different. The iPhone 14 Pro Max has bigger bezels, while the iPhone 15 Pro Max has smaller bezels. On the other hand, the brightness, the peak brightness, the ProMotion, the specs of this display are pretty much the same. They still feature the same 2000 nits of peak brightness, the same 1600 nits of sustained brightness. They still feature ProMotion always on display. So the displays are pretty much the same. The only difference is that now the iPhone 15 Pro Max has smaller bezels. And you may be asking yourself, will the iPhone 15 Pro Max have a bigger display because of the smaller bezels? No, it won't. The iPhone 15 Pro Max will be a tiny bit smaller than the iPhone 14 Pro Max in terms of sheer size of the case, because it has smaller bezels. So Apple cut the size in terms of the sheer size of the phone from the bezels. The display at the end of it is the same size, so 6.1 inches and 6.7 inches. So, I mean, this is a good thing. I don't want bigger displays, I want smaller phones with the same 6.7 inch display. Apple, please innovate on this matter. But if you look at this phone from the front, it looks brand new because of the smaller bezels. And every time that Apple does this, I just say this: I like it, keep going. As for the battery life, I don't think there are any changes from the iPhone 15 Pro Max to the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Although rumors were talking about that the iPhone 15 Pro Max would have up to 20% more battery size, so more milliamperes of battery, that wasn't true. So on Apple's page, every single battery metric that you can see, so hours of video streaming, hours of audio streaming, all of those metrics are the same between the iPhone 15 Pro Max and 14 Pro Max. Do this exercise yourself. Go to the Apple website and compare the two phones, and then tell me if you find any difference, because I couldn't find any. And so, these phones will probably have the same battery life. With my experience of the iPhone 14 Pro Max for the last year, I can tell you that it could last me one day. One full day of heavy use. But if you are not a heavy user, maybe it could last you 1.5 days. Not more than that. And if you are a very heavy power user, maybe it will die around noon. So yeah, I wish Apple put bigger batteries, or even the A17 could provide better battery performance. But I don't see it. So it's actually pretty weird because Apple now on the iPhone 15 Pro Max has implemented the A17 Pro chip. The A17 Pro chip is way more powerful, but Apple specified that the biggest advancement on this chip would be the power efficiency, so the power watt usage. This is weird because, okay, this chip is more efficient, but why is not the iPhone have better battery life? Doesn't make any sense for me, but I mean, we need to try out this phone. I need to review this phone to see if it truly has better battery life or not. But I mean, the specs actually indicate that it should have better battery life. It doesn't make any sense that Apple's on its website are reporting the same amount of hours. But let's see what happens. Now, I want to talk about the A17 Pro chip. This chip was a complete banger that Apple announced. It has ray tracing, it has more CPU power, it has a better GPU with ray tracing like I told you. It can support now AAA games on the iPhone, which is insane, while the iPhone 14 Pro Max doesn't feature ray tracing. It's a 5nm A16 chip. This A16 chip is the chip present on the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus. It's still very fast, you won't notice any lags while using iOS, but in terms of performance, the iPhone 14 Pro Max compared to the iPhone 15 Pro Max will lag a bit, because this ray tracing technology is truly insane. You can see on Apple's keynote the differences between a chip with the ray tracing technology and a chip without the ray tracing technology. It's like 8 FPS against 30 FPS. It's insane. And of course, AAA games like Assassin's Creed Mirage or Resident Evil 4 are insane that will run on iPhone. And this has bigger implications to the future also, because you don't know, Apple's M3 chip, the Mac chip and the iPad chip, is coming with this 3nm technology. And if the A17 Pro chip is less powerful and it can still run AAA games like Assassin's Creed Mirage, we might be seeing a huge jump on the M3, M3 Pro, M3 Max or even M3 Ultra. These will also feature ray tracing because if you don't know, the A17 Pro chip is the same chip in terms of its spaces as the other chips. The other chips have more cores, more CPU cores, more GPU cores. They are more optimized, they are bigger for computers, but they are still the same basis as this A17 Pro chip. So they will also feature ray tracing in all the technologies found on the A17 Pro chip. So again, what are the biggest advantages between the A17 Pro against the A16 found on the iPhone 14 Pro Max? Well, better efficiency, it's way more powerful, but the biggest gains will be seen on the GPU performance. And finally, we reach the best and most important part of this comparison between the iPhone 14 Pro Max and the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and that's the camera specs. The iPhone 14 Pro Max features a triple camera lens system with an ultra-wide camera, a telephoto camera, and the main 48 megapixel sensor camera. The iPhone 15 Pro Max on the other side features again 3 cameras, but this time features a new sensor for the 48 megapixel main sensor. It's an f1.8, it's a bigger sensor, and it can now downscale images from a 48 megapixel sensor to a 24 megapixel shot. So the pictures will be sharper than the iPhone 14 Pro Max with the same or even better low light performance. And of course, if you want still, you can take pro raw photos with that 48 megapixel insane sensor. I'm hoping that Apple has optimized their algorithms and software to take even more advantages between the 48 megapixel sensor on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. I've used the iPhone 14 Pro Max for the last year, and I gotta say that I'm kinda disappointed with the performance of the 48 megapixel sensor in some scenarios. So please Apple, improve that, and next week I will test it out. As for the ultra-wide lens, the iPhone 15 Pro Max now features a bigger and wider ultra-wide lens. This lens is equivalent to 13mm ultra-wide lens. This is better because it has a bigger sensor, so it can capture more light, so it has better low light performance. That's the only thing that I was asking for the ultra-wide camera, because that camera on poor lighting conditions was not that great on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. And now on the iPhone 15 Pro Max, because we have a bigger sensor, I'm expecting some improvements, not that much, but some improvements to the macro photography and of course to the low light performance of the ultra-wide camera. Before I talk about the biggest jump of the iPhone 15 Pro Max over the iPhone 14 Pro Max and the exclusive feature found only on the Pro Max model, I want to talk about the thing that Apple actually changed with the 48 megapixel main sensor, and that's several incremental crop zoom. So it's weird to talk about that, but Apple now allows you to incrementally crop in on your photo. So you can crop in 1.2 times without losing any quality, 1.5 times without losing any quality, and 2 times without losing any quality. Before, on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, you could only crop in 2 times. This is weird, I know, but it will enable you to actually take some photographers' preferred focal lenses. So a 24mm equivalent with the 1x, a 28mm equivalent with the 1.2x, the 1.5x is 35mm equivalent, and yes, the good and old 2x crop-in from the iPhone 14 Pro Max, the 40mm equivalent. And of course, this is really cool because I've used the 2x for the last year and it's really useful. And now, if I can have better zoom-ins without losing any quality with some preferred focal lenses, like the 35mm is actually really useful because if you don't want to crop in 15mm, the 48mm equivalent, if you don't want to crop in that much, but you still want to give a different look to your subject, the 35mm is a really good option. And now on the iPhone 15 Pro Max, I can use it without losing any quality. Super happy with that. But the biggest feature is now with the telephoto lens. The iPhone 15 Pro features the same 3x found on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, but with a bit bigger sensors, so the low light performance will be improved. As for the iPhone 15 Pro Max, it features a new and improved 5x telephoto camera. This is not a periscope lens. The technology that it uses is different. It's a 4-mirror system that reflects the light vertically, so in the same direction as the sensor. The sensor is the same direction as the lenses and the mirrors, so it's not a periscope lens. The periscope lens would be horizontally, this is vertically. So this is insane because it actually allows Apple to take 5x zooms photos without losing any quality. This is a 120mm equivalent shots, so it will be incredible for taking portrait photography, wildlife photography, and much more. You can also now zoom in 25x digitally without losing that much quality. I think that maybe closing up to the 25, you will notice some type of noise and less quality, but maybe on the 15x, 20x, it will still be very useful. So I'm super thrilled to try out this new telephoto lens. Like, this is the one thing that I was asking for the iPhones for a long time, since I've tried out the Samsung S22 Ultra, and now is only found on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Not the iPhone 15 Pro, only the iPhone 15 Pro Max. And again, the iPhone 14 Pro Max doesn't feature that. The iPhone 14 Pro Max features the 3x telephoto. And I thought it was weird at the time when Apple launched it, because it was too close to the 2x, but now I understand why they were preparing the 5x telephoto. So it all makes sense, and I actually talked about that on my several reviews of the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So if you want to check those out, go check it out. I think you will love them. So to finish up this comparison, I just want to say that the iPhone 15 Pro Max got cheaper in my country for around 130 euros, which is equivalent to around $150. That was insane. I could not expect that. Now the iPhone 15 Pro Max starts at $1,200 on the US. But it starts with 256 GB of storage, while the iPhone 14 Pro Max started at $1,099, but with 128 GB of storage. So the iPhone 15 Pro Max actually did not increase in price on the United States. It didn't, because it just removed the base 128 GB option. Now it starts at 256, so the price hasn't actually increased on the United States. But in my country, it has actually decreased. So I'm super happy with that. I will be saving money this year. Of course, I will still keep buying the iPhone 15 Pro Max, 256 GB of storage. I don't need more. I never needed more than that. So I will save money this year. This is incredible. Thank you, Apple, for not actually increasing the prices like everyone was rumoring and talking about. And of course, this is insane for most people because now they will save money still getting titanium, USB-C, a periscope or telephoto lens with 5x. This is huge. Apple did not increase the prices and it changed the iPhone that much. I'm super happy. So the iPhone 15 Pro Max is now cheaper, depending on your country. If you are living on the United States, it's the same price as the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So enjoy it. Thank God, Apple. You actually did right this time. So let me know in the comments below what you think. Which phone do you have right now? Do you have an iPhone 14 Pro Max? Will you upgrade for the iPhone 15 Pro Max? Which phone do you want to upgrade to? 15 Pro, 15 Pro Max? Let me know all of that in the comments down below. The light just died. Will you buy the iPhone 15 Pro or 15 Pro Max? And do you prefer the titanium sides, USB-C, to the iPhone 14 Pro Max's lightning cable, and of course stainless steel? Let me know all of that in the comments down below. While you're there, do not forget to subscribe to my channel, leave a like. Thank you guys for watching. This is VTech Summer talking to you here. Bye bye.